Hi, I'm Leo. Welcome to Low Budget Garage, the mechanic show for the average Joe.
Now, on our last episode, John removed the front clip of his '69 Camaro. He showed us a side-by-side comparison and explained how the newer '71 clip had a lower center of gravity. He explained how on the new '71 clip, the linkage was in the front and the stabilizer bar was very heavy duty. John also showed us how the body mounts from his '71 clip do not match up to the body mounts on the chassis. He explained how critical it was that he be able to match the body mounts to his chassis mounts to avoid going down the road sideways. So now let's follow along and see what John has coming up for us next on Low Budget Garage.
Okay, so I'm going to start taking parts out of the engine compartment. Here is part of the wiring harness. You can see that the wiring harness is supposed to be mounted to the firewall, but it's not.
John, where did you find this? In the Gobi Desert?
No, it was just lying in the dirt. But, none of this stuff is going to get used, so I'm going to just eliminate it. Now, somebody had put a real nice set of horns on this, probably replacing the original horn.
Now, John, are you planning on reusing those horns?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm going to take all that out. I just have to disconnect all the hoses and wires and clean this up. So a lot of people don't like cutting wires, but since I'm not reusing them, I don't mind cutting them.
Yeah, you're telling me. That's one thing I'm afraid of once they're cut. Well, on the other hand, I do love electrical tape.
Yeah. So I'm just pulling out the little unit that comes with the horn system and throwing that in the trash.
Well, there it went.
Yeah. So right up here, there's another ground wire. Usually that's for the front lights. So I just unscrew that with the wrench, and then you can pull it out. It's usually finger tight at that point. And the nut on these are very important. There's a little washer called a star washer. You want to make sure that you get that reapplied when you put it back onto the metal, because the star shape digs into the metal so that it makes a good ground.
Oh, so that kind of takes the place of a lock washer also, huh?
Yeah, it'll hold it in there, but it cuts into the paint. So down here is a bushing for the rest of the harness. It goes to the running lights up front, and you don't want to destroy that. I actually want to keep that little bracket there, or the little clip. So I'm going to cut behind it in case I need to use that again. So this here is just trying to pull out some of the wiring harness. I've got the side marker light. Actually, it was missing, but that's the unit that plugs into it. And this is the plug that goes into the headlight. Looks like a clip broke off in there.
Not surprised it hasn't been working in a while, huh?
Yeah, it's not a real good, system. We're just trying to fix everything. So I'm just gonna dump that wiring harness.
Oh, there that goes.
And I got to find the bolts for the fender.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, there's a lot of that in this body. The mice and rats just kind of piled up everything.
Speaking of body, you didn't find any, did you?
There was about 3 or 4 dead rats in there.
Oh no!
Not there, but in the trunk.
Oh, okay.
So you can see how dusty it gets. But I have to get rid of all this stuff so I can find all the bolts and the nuts that I need to undo. So this is the side marker light on the passenger side, and you can see it just twist and pull. And here's a alarm horn or siren, obviously an old alarm system. I'm just taking this off. And these ratchet wrenches really work great. It's like using a socket.
Oh, goodbye.
And that's the end of that. Alright, so here's a close-up of the front bumper, and you can see how the bracket on the bumper mounts to another bracket here. That bracket then mounts to the frame. So it's pretty simple. Just want to make sure you can find those bolts. Here's the front headlight housing. It's like a little shell or a cover that comes on there. Once you take it off, you can get to all the rest of the bolts. And here I'm just pulling off the ring around the headlight. It's the only way to get that clip off. There's like a little spring that holds the housing on there. So you got to make sure you take that headlight ring off there first. It's a little stainless steel trim. So you can see that right there. It sits on the lip of the glass headlight. And then you can get to that little spring right there. So here's the front grille. I'm going to be taking that out. And as you can see, several holes. There were no bolts in there or screws. That's the way I got it. There's ones at the top, empty as well. I don't know what they had done, but there's a couple of bolts still left in. One right here. And then there's another bolt tucked in the back on the passenger side. Right about there. And if you see from the inside, there's the top of the bolt. So that'll take the front grille out. Okay, here I'm taking the bolts off the front grille. This is a 1/2-inch ratchet. And I'll just loosen this. And the rest of it I'll pull out by hand, because once the bolts are finger tight, you can just undo them with your hand. It's much faster. It's a plastic piece that connects to metal, so you want to make sure that either you don't tighten it too tight when you put it back on, and somebody had already done that earlier. You saw the crack in the plastic housing. So once those two bolts are out, I can just pull that grille straight out of the front. Now normally you'd have the bolts on the top and there's some screws on the bottom, but they didn't come with this car, so I was lucky. And that's the grille. Now here's the front without the grille. You can see the support here for the hood latch is bent. I'll have to replace that. And these are just the light housings that I'll remove. It's a little bit easier to get in there without the grille. Okay, so looking at these light brackets, I guess you call them the mounting brackets. There are a couple of bolts in here that hold it in. Now on the car that I got, one of the bolts seemed to be missing.
Now, John, why do you think that was?
You know, it's hard to say what people do to a car before you get it. I have no idea what they were thinking, but maybe they had changed the headlights and they forgot to put the bolt in. These two bolts are in the back of the radiator support, so once you've loosened the back two bolts, then there's that top nut or bolt that'll come out, and you'll be able to pull that whole bracket right out of there. So I've already removed the bolts. I'm just taking this bracket out so you can see what it looks like. And here's the pile of parts left. That's everything I've taken out. The mounting bracket, the housing, the lens, the trim, and the cover.
Well, that's pretty. You want to keep all those things together, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. It's not going to help to lose anything if you separate those parts.